to the first episode of our program feature series. It's a new series that we're doing here on LifeatHumber, where we speak to representatives from a specific program for their insights and experiences in the program itself, and how it prepared them for kind of like their careers and the industry afterwards. So today we are taking a deep dive into the film and television production program, the advanced diploma program, and my guests today include Elliot Stickle, current film and TV production student, and fellow digital content creator. We also have Veronica Jennings, an alumni, a director, and a digital project coordinator at Sick Kids. And we have Cator, one of the film and TV programs instructors, as well as the program coordinator. So before we get started, maybe we could have each of you tell us a bit about yourselves. So Elliot, do you wanna start us off?
Nice, yeah. So I'm Elliot. You gave a little brief introduction about me. I'm in the second year in the film and television program. I'm also a digital content creator here at LifeatHumber. And part of my interest within film, I would say, is the cinematography and editing. Those are kind of the two main focuses I like to be within. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Great. And Veronica?
Yes, so I'm Veronica. I graduated from Humber in 2017. I am currently working at Sick Kids Hospital as a digital project coordinator, so kind of doing all things digital for them, whether it's video, photo, email marketing, and stuff like that. While I was at Humber, my three main focuses were directing and script writing and editing.
Great. And Eric?
Hi, everyone. So yes, I've been teaching in the program for about 12 years now, and I have been the co-program coordinator for the past 4 years. And I primarily teach the first-year sound classes.
Okay, great. And I'm David. Sorry. And if maybe we'll go one more round, and everybody could state the pronouns. My pronouns are he, him. But I'll be hosting and moderating this chat. But for this one time, I can actually maybe chime in every now and then, because I'm also actually a film and TV student myself. So, we'll focus on our guest perspectives, but you might hear me chime in every now and then.
Nice.
So yeah, sorry. If we can just go one round and everyone pronouns.
I can start that. I'm he, him as well.
And Veronica?
She, her.
And Eric?
And I'm he, him as well.
All right, excellent. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, first question is kind of a general one, but I think a lot of people looking into the program would be very interested to know what are like your best parts of the program, or if not the best, maybe your favorite parts of the program that you found. Maybe we'll start with you, Elliot.
Sure. I would say for me, the best parts of the program are the opportunities you get. You can be part of bigger sets and bigger crews. You really learn like the set hierarchy, and you start off well. Like first year, you start off with kind of like your lessons and your workshops, and you build up to your PMP, which is your personal media project, which is the first big project that you work on. And you see the aspects of the pre-production, the production, and the post, and you kind of see how the workflow goes between them. And then just with the gear and everything you have access to, there's a lot that you can do within the program. And even the teachers themselves, they are very personable, and they kind of become like your friends. And it's very nice. They have their own experiences that they bring in, and it makes it very actually engaging.
Awesome, yeah. And for Veronica, how about you?
Yeah, I would probably say the best part of the program was how much you got to do. Like when I was there, I definitely liked how they, sorry, I can't. I did like how they structured the program, because they don't exactly just completely throw you in. Like there is sort of baby steps before you work up to your final year, where your final year definitely feels like a very real world experience of what it's gonna be like outside of Humber. But yeah, they don't just throw you right into the deep dive. You do get to learn along the way, and you get to try all different roles, as many as you want, especially in the last year. There's no limit to how many roles that you want to try out. And And I felt that they were also very on top of the sort of industry standard. Because I know, for example, like they made sure that they had the appropriate cameras, that they were focusing more on digital filmmaking, because that was what was prevalent in the real world. So
Yeah. Eric, and from a faculty perspective, what's the kind of the best thing that you think the program has to offer students?
Well, maybe this is a bit of a selfish answer, but I would say, from my perspective, the best part of the program is the students. And again, on the selfish side of things, I just really love getting to meet and work with filmmakers, young filmmakers who are just getting started and are so passionate about learning. But taking myself out of the equation, I would still give the same answer, because I think probably one of the best assets that a student leaves the program with is the connections they've made, the community they've created for themselves with the other students they've gone through the program with. They've spent 3 years working with 100 or so other students who have all been sharing these experiences, and those are the people that they can really rely on as they're building their career as they leave the program.
Yeah, and there's this quote that I heard from a filmmaker this one time, and well, it's not really a quote, it's just more of a thing that they said, and it was like how, especially when you're like a young filmmaker and you're starting out, most filmmakers have this dream of working with like the big wigs, like Steven Spielberg, or George Lucas, or James Cameron, and stuff like that. But like one of the, and this is why I don't really remember exactly what they said, but like one of the better things that you can do or have for your career is to work with your peers and kind of grow with your peers, because you're all starting at the same spot, and then you can all help each other grow, boost each other's weaknesses, and grow your network, immediately, like right there.
Yeah, and when you look at those stories of those people, those like famous filmmakers, and they're all telling stories about other famous filmmakers, but they knew each other when they were in school, when they were just starting out, and having that opportunity to have that group to work with is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so like the next question is, what do you kind of wish you knew on like the first day of class, or what tips do you have for new students? So like back when you started, or in, I guess in Allie's case, even now, what kind of things do you wish you knew on the first day of class? I guess we'll start with Elliot.
Yeah, I can start this one off. That's kind of my point. Relates kind of back to what Eric said, and that is, in your first year, really be open to meeting new people. At least for myself, within the first year, I think I only met a section and a half, maybe 2 sections in the first year. So I only met like half the people that was in the program. So really try to get to know everyone there. It's really fun to like meet and connect everybody. Like everyone kind of knows something, whether it's something that you may be a little bit better at that you can help teach others, or maybe they know something that you can get help on. So it's a back and forth, and it's very fun. And there's something else I was going to say about that. But yeah, I would say meet new people, and then also use the resources there. Like if there's something you're wanting to try out, really get used to, rent out the gear, there's resources that this program offers, and really use them, eat them up, and use them to the best you can.
Yeah, and for Veronica?
Yeah, I would probably say the resources as well, especially your teachers as resources. Throughout all 3 years is making sure that you kind of let them know what you're interested in and what you want to try. And I think I was in first year editing, and I mentioned to my teacher that I was really interested in color grading, and this was like over the summer. And he sent me, a couple resources for color grading, and we weren't even really at that stage, but just letting them know kind of what you're interested in, because they're always willing to help you, and also to kind of stay in contact with them afterwards, because again, they're always willing to help and looking to them for any sort of guidance that they might have. And I would also say when I'm thinking about my first day, keeping an open, you think you might want to focus on in the future, because I feel like a lot of people go in and they're like, I definitely want to be a director, or I definitely want to be a screenwriter. And a lot of them, by the end of the years, they're like, oh, I really enjoy cinematography, or like, oh, I've really found an affinity for editing. So it's kind of just keeping an open mind of not going in with the set idea of like, I'm going to film school to be a director, but more I'm going to kind of learn about film in general and what I might like, because it might not be what you expect.
Yeah, and I definitely like the to the part about like using the instructors and the teachers as resources, because everyone has kind of like they could be at different levels in terms of like their skill level. So maybe you're for example, let's take editing, right? Maybe you're familiar already with some of the concepts that are taught in class. Then and this helps with the classmates too, right? You can become a resource to your classmates, and that allows you to get to know them. And it also kind of it's a good networking method for your classmates in a sense, if you help them and help each other with your assignments. But you can also ask questions of your professors of some more advanced things, like how your instructor sent you things about color grading, even though you weren't on there yet. If you're already good with the material that's taught, if there's some spare time, you can always pick their brain and learn more. And if not about the material, even just about the industry, I found they're all like, they've all worked in the industry, and they all have experiences, and it's always nice to learn from that. Any comments on that, Eric?
I think I would definitely kind of branch off of that, because I think what all of you have been saying is really important. And probably the biggest thing I could add to it would be to say that when you're first starting the program, those first days and weeks, not to be afraid of what you don't know. You're going to be introduced to every facet of filmmaking, and some of them might seem very new, very foreign, and maybe a bit daunting. And it's okay to come in not knowing a lot of things, because the whole idea of the program, as Veronica mentioned, is to kind of start you off with baby steps, to give you those introductions, to give you the skills you need before you're thrown into a bigger situation where you're working on a large crew and have a lot of responsibility on you for that big project. And so those early days, just try and be as open as you can. And the more intimidating something seems, the more you want to go after it. Even if there's other people in the room who maybe have more experience in a certain area than you do, and that can be intimidating as well. Don't let anything stop you from learning everything you can learn and trying everything you can try. Because the more well-rounded you are as a filmmaker, the more you can pick up from all these different areas, the better you're going to be as you specialize.
Awesome, yeah. So then I guess this is more geared towards Veronica and Elliot, but in the case of like choosing the program, why did you choose Humber and the program specifically? What other and there's something that you both, and maybe Eric can touch on too, like what are kind of the benefits of schooling compared to other pathways into the industry? So maybe Veronica, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I actually joined or chose Humber because I had someone that I went to high school with who went to Humber, and he was, directing music videos and putting out some really great work. So I was like, okay, well, if he went to Humber, must be a good program. I also came to Humber out of university. So I graduated from university, and then I had a year of doing sort of videography work. So I had a little bit of experience under my belt, but I knew that I needed more, and I didn't want to go the university route just because I had already gone to university. And I wanted something that was a little bit more practical and more hands-on, and I wasn't going to be spending most of my time in like a lecture or anything like that. And I could just focus on really kind of immersing myself in the world and and having that hands-on experience, which is something that I half and half lacked in university.
Cool. And Elliot?
Nice. For myself, I'm actually from Ottawa, so kind of in the Ottawa area, there wasn't as many options for film programs. There's more the theory university ones, which I wasn't looking as much into. So I actually did a trip up to Toronto, and I was looking at the different universities there and the colleges and trying to see the options within the film kind of Toronto industry. And I went to some other kind of universities, and I wasn't too, fond of them. And then I went to Humber, and I actually went to one of their tours, and I just found it very relatable and welcoming. I got a tour from a student who actually showed me around, showed me what you're going to do and the gear and everything. And just from there, I saw I was like, okay, this is it right here. Like they're just so relatable. I even remember they went to the cage is where you rent all the gear. They're like, yeah, like you could even work here. And like, they showed me everything. And it was a really amazing experience. And from being where Ottawa, there wasn't as many hands-on experience programs like Humber. It was very appealing, to go to this program, and it's been great since then with all the resources that we've been talking about, and the opportunities kind of within it.
Yeah, and so and Eric, what do you think would be the benefits of going to a program instead of, say, maybe trying to just go out and do it, right? Like, especially nowadays where everyone has a camera in their pockets, so to speak, and there's really it's kind of incredible how kind of the barrier to telling stories has been almost like non-existent nowadays, right? So what do you think the benefits of doing like a program like the film and television production program offers to students?
Well, you're right. I think there is a lot more accessibility at this point than there used to be, so that, you could film something with your phone if you wanted to and edit it and put it into the world and distribute it online. But a lot of it is about the scale that you want to be working at. And it can be very difficult to kind of break into the industry on that kind of higher, more professional level if you don't already have connections to the industry. On the one hand, it's true, if you get onto a film set, no one's going to ask to look at your transcript before they let you, carry some sandbags around. But getting onto the film set in the first place usually involves somebody having kind of vouched for you, someone knowing that you can be trusted, that you are reliable, that you're going to come through when you say you're going to do something. And people usually don't want to put their name on the line and recommend you unless they've worked with you already and they've seen you prove yourself. And so film school is an amazing place to do that, because again, you're going to be spending 3 years working with people on a wide range of projects in a lot of different roles. And over those 3 years, hopefully you're establishing yourself with all the other people you're working with and the faculty as someone that they want to vouch for, someone that, if a job opportunity comes up, they would not hesitate for a moment to put your name forward. And so when you graduate and you've got, 100 or so other people that you're graduating with, maybe some of those students, those recent grads, will have internships that will become paying jobs. And then suddenly someone turns to them and says, hey, we need someone next week or even tomorrow. You just graduated. You must know some people who are looking for work. Who can you recommend? And, you've just spent 3 years with that person and your name's going to pop up in their head. And that's a great way to get your foot in the door. And then, it even makes you more valuable when you do get that foothold and someone turns to you and says, can you recommend somebody? And you've got a list of probably 20 people that you're like, yeah, absolutely. I've got a whole bunch of amazing people I can recommend to you. And that just makes you more valuable because you're a resource now. So film school really establishes that network before you've even begun your professional career. And that can be really, really helpful.
Yeah. That's so true. And it's crazy. Like it's similar to Vanessa. I had some previous schooling as well, like in the sciences. So kind of like a whole different industry. And kind of no matter what you're doing, networking is a very crucial thing to do. And having a good network is is very important for your career. But now that I'm in the film, definitely having a network built, like having people you can call on for what you said, last minute work, or that you can maybe expect some, for you to refer you for some work as well, I think is definitely super crucial, and it kind of like a lot more important than I initially thought, for sure. So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a great plus of the program, for sure.
And the film school can help you if you're looking at getting into one of the unions too. There's a lot of training that happens especially in third year, that'll help prepare you and kind of smooth that path. So that can be really beneficial as well.
Yeah. Speaking of training, what better place to make mistakes on an actual project than school, where the stakes are, not as high than on a production, where if you're in a position where they would even let you make that big of a mistake, you probably are very lucky or have good connections already, or it's going to be very consequential. So definitely school is also a great place to, like we said before, learn things that you might have zero experience in a very safe environment. So speaking of like getting into the program, then, so what was the kind of the admission or the application process like? Eric, this is probably may want to.
So yeah, so from my end, applications are accepted through ontariocolleges.ca, so the standard college application process in Ontario. And once you have applied, the application is forwarded to Humber College, and then you are contacted to attend an info session. And obviously with COVID this past year, all the info sessions have been online, so you can attend from anywhere. But that info session does a couple of things. It gives you a lot more information about the program, to let you know if it's the right program for you, because it is a big commitment. Choosing to spend 3 years somewhere, it's nice to have as much information about what that program is ahead of time. And so the info session gives very detailed breakdowns of what to expect throughout the 3 years, and what the options and experiences will be like. But it also gives us a chance to get to know the applicants a little bit better. So there are a couple of written components. There's I'll use the word essay, but it's not a very formal essay. It's a very sort of personal, loose sort of essay, as well as some short answer kind of questionnaire questions. But again, it's not the type of thing where you need to already have this extensive resume and experience in the industry. It's not that at all. And in fact, our goal is always to be very equitable in that way of, you could have some experience or absolutely no experience. You could come from a high school that had an amazing program where you got to film and edit, and you could come from a high school that never let you touch a camera, never did any sort of editing, and you'll still be okay. You're still on the same ground and you still have the same opportunities available to you. But it's more about demonstrating that you have a genuine interest, that you're pay attention. Everybody's always watching a lot of shows and films, but are you going a little bit deeper than just kind of letting it wash over you? Have you been giving it some thought? Are you paying attention to the way a scene is directed, the way a scene is cut together, the way the sound is being used? And it doesn't have to be at a really extensive level, but it's just a chance for us to see, where exactly your interests lie, because we do get a fair number of applicants. So it's a nice way to make sure that the program's going to be right. It's going to be right for you, and you're going to be right for the program, and it's going to be a great fit when you get here.
Yeah, when you mentioned the essay component, one thing that came to my mind, and when you mentioned it not being necessarily like a a formal essay, like, were any of you taught like the way you do a paragraph, like point, proof, explanation, that kind of essay style?
No, yeah, it's really just a personal, like, the essay is really just a chance to say, okay, pick a movie or a television show you've watched recently and just tell us about it. It can be positive, it can be critical, it can be a bit of both, but it's just a chance to demonstrate again that you're looking at things, that you're thinking about things on another level, which demonstrates that this is something you're interested in beyond just being a consumer of movies. And it's great to be a fan of film and television shows. But it's a very different thing to be the one making those shows. And so being able to demonstrate that you are thinking about it on another level other than, well, that was fun, that was enjoyable. But like, wow, okay, why did they film it this way? Why did they create it the way they did? And you don't have to know all the technical terminology, but it's just good to know that, okay, you're thinking about this a little bit deeper than someone else might be.
Yeah, and speaking of that experience, for Elliot and Veronica, what was your experience with the application process, like with the essay and such? Yeah, Veronica.
Yeah, I don't remember the application process too much, which probably means that it wasn't too crazy. I do specifically remember this moment of at the info session, and I was writing my quote unquote essay, and just like, letting all of the things that I was passionate about just like kind of pour onto the page, because it did have that sort of loose style where it wasn't asking you to write a thesis on why you love film. It was just kind of trying to get to know you. So it really opened up to allowing you to be a little bit vulnerable on the page as well. And I remember sitting down and being done and looking out the window at campus and being like, oh, I hope I did it. Like, I can't wait. Like, this is so exciting. And that's all I remember from the application process, which is not a bad moment.
Yeah. How about you, Elliot?
Nice. For me, I just remember hearing kind of like the essay where I was like, oh no. That for me was like a little bit nerve-wracking. But then once you get in, yeah, you meet one of the professors that actually leads the info session. And just even that, I was sitting there, I remember just like thinking like, wow, this is going to be could be one of my professors. Just the way they were kind of talking about the films and the programs, it made me really interested. And as we're saying, it wasn't that bad. Once you're writing it, if you show your personality and kind of, as we were saying before, like show your interest and your willingness to learn, and you're thinking about these type of filmmaking aspects, it becomes very easy, or not very easy, I shouldn't say, but it becomes less stressful to write. And that was kind of my process, at least coming from that. And it was just a good experience. You go, at least for me at the time, I went to the school and you go through the kind of the process of doing it.
Yeah, what I found was that what I really liked was that it like, rather than seeing it as kind of like a test, I saw it as an opportunity to actually write about, something that I was thinking about for what I was watching at the moment. Like, I was watching this TV show that I don't think many people have heard of, and I noticed they had this editing style, and I questioned it because I wasn't really a big fan of it. So, I just found myself, writing exactly what my thoughts were, and I actually found that as like really nice. Like it's in the film, once you get in the program, or even on the day of, there's a chance to meet a lot of new people. You can talk about films all day. So I just kind of took what I would say in a conversation and almost just kind of put that on paper, so to speak. So yeah, I actually found it was a great opportunity to talk about something rather than seeing it as a essay or a test. But like, maybe, once you get into the program, what did you feel the program was kind of like at the start, and how it progressed in the second year and then third year? So Elliot, you and I are going into our third year. What thinking back on first year, how, I don't know, what are your memories of like just starting out in the program?
Yeah, I remember walking in, and I actually had one of the studio classes first. So I walked in the studio, and you walk in, and everyone's kind of all set up, and you see everybody, and it's just very exciting. And as we're talking about before, like, it's nice. You start off kind of with the baby steps. We get everyone learning like the processes. That way, when you build up to, as I was saying before, like your first project, you kind of understand the roles. You've tried out a little bit of everything. You understand what you would do, and you kind of build up that knowledge of stuff, which is nice. And through your classes, you start to learn about, a little aspects of everything, whether that's editing, sound, or cinematography and directing, and doing all the blocking and the pre-production work, which is really nice. and gets you started. Because in the second year, you dive right in and you start in with a little bit larger stuff. Because in first year, you actually do, I guess this is how it kind of changes. Within first year, you do your PMP, which is your first major project, and that's with one partner. And then you move into documentaries where you start to build out into 5, 6, sort of smaller groups. And then later in second year, you develop into even a larger crew. So you kind of can see the steps throughout the program, and it's very nice to actually kind of go through that process.
How about you, Veronica? Do you remember what your first day or starting in the program was like?
I don't remember my first day. That would be asking a lot of me. But I do remember my first year, even the first semester. I'm a bit of an impatient person. I like to just go. And you do have to be really patient with the first semester. I would say you're doing a lot of exercises, and you're still, on camera, working with the camera, like working in groups, and they're just kind of little assignments and almost like micro short films that you're making. But it still doesn't feel quite like you're in the world. You still feel like you're at the very early stages. And for someone like me who just wants to like go, that was probably the most frustrating part. Still super informative and super fun. But once we hit like the PMP projects, that's definitely when it starts to feel a bit more like, okay, like here we go. And I don't know if it's changed at all, but when I was doing it, you're assigned like you have a partner, and they help you on yours and you help them on theirs. But because you've already kind of built sort of like a friendship network, they kind of become like these little micro crews where like 2 other people might come and help on that one. Like 2 other people might come help, or you might help on someone else's, even if it's not sort of required. So you do get a sense of what it is like to work on a crew, even though it's really small. And then second year was the documentaries and then the studio dramas. And the documentaries were, again, it's when things start to become, they start to pick up really quickly. You have to pitch the documentary ideas, and only a few get selected. So it's got that like really exciting lottery feel to it. But at the same time, you learn how to pitch ideas in order to get your film selected. And then studio dramas were, for me, it was probably the most fun, because you got to like build the sets and help out in all sorts of areas. And I was fortunate enough to be able to direct one of them. So as the years go on, and by third year, I would say you kind of, you get a little bit more freedom, I want to say. Like the professors are obviously all there. They're all teaching you your classes, and they're all there to help you, but they kind of let you take control of your films that you're working on. You're responsible for kind of booking equipment trucks and making sure your locations are secured. And you start to feel like you're really working in the film industry, and you've got these old, like wiser professors to help you and guide you through it. So it's definitely that progression, but it does change from year to year, and it changes really quickly.
Yeah, I can definitely relate, and maybe it's because we both had previous schooling, but like I definitely feeling a bit impatient at the beginning as things kind of start out. But I think it's nice to point out that a lot of people are different, and I talked to other classmates that found that the pace they started off was actually quite a good pace, especially for a program that's very kind of like open, and like Eric mentioned before, the requirements is very much more about your kind of like your thought process and how you think about film, as opposed to what experience you initially bring in. Because yeah, there's no portfolio requirement for this program, which I thought was a very, very freeing, right? So we didn't have to know how to make films to go into a program to learn to make films, which I thought was really nice. But yeah, but even though feeling that, it definitely picks up afterwards for sure. For the PMP, and then definitely going into the dramas in second year. So yeah, I guess that'd be like a tip of warning. Like if it feels slow in the beginning, it'll definitely pick up. So that'd be kind of my quick tip. Anything to add to that, Eric?
Well, yeah, I think it's actually really great to hear all of this, because the program is certainly designed in a certain way, but then to hear if it's actually playing out that way for people who are going through the program, it's nice to know if it's going the way you want it to go and hope it'll go. And that really does seem to reflect sort of the design of the program, where first semester especially is a lot of sort of an information overload sometimes, I think, for some people, because it's like, okay, we need you to have a strong understanding of a wide variety of topics and areas of film, so that you can then take on a wide range of roles, whether you're making your own film or helping someone else on theirs. Everyone can be depended on to kind of step in and take on a lot of different roles. And I think, yeah, for some people, yeah, it probably feels a little slow, or maybe I think I've definitely heard for some people too, especially in that first semester, it just feels like, oh, this is just so much information, and I don't know if I can keep up with just having to absorb this much information all the time. But then it quickly shifts into a more production mode of saying, okay, now that you have that information, let's apply it. Let's turn that into experience. Let's go make some films. And again, the PMP was brought up a couple times there, and that's a really great chance to turn that knowledge into practical experience, because on that project you are the writer, the director, the cinematographer, the picture editor, the sound editor, the producer, the production manager. You're doing all those key roles, and it means that you're having to take on a lot of jobs that, you know, maybe you weren't thinking about doing initially. But it's always fun to see people discover things they didn't even know existed, really, and to discover that they have a talent and an interest and a love for it even. It's funny, even sometimes there's, you know, people come in and show you the binder of pre-production materials, and they're like, I loved putting this binder together. And that's fantastic to see someone like discover that. And other people come in and say, I did not enjoy putting this binder together at all. And the next project I work on, I'm going to really appreciate my producer and production manager, because I'm going to know what it took to get this thing off the ground. All that work, I don't have to do it anymore. Someone else is doing it, but I understand what has to be done, and I can appreciate the work that's being done. And that's where I think your value as a filmmaker really shines, when you know a lot of what's going into other people's jobs on set, because you have to work so closely together, that if you really appreciate what everyone else is doing, it just makes it run that much smoother and more effectively. And it makes the process more enjoyable too. Because if someone tells you they're having a difficulty with something, or they need a little more time, or, you know, whatever's going on, you know what that's about, what they're facing, and you can help them. So yeah, that's really kind of how the program's designed, to kind of ramp you up, and then you work on bigger and bigger and bigger projects and take on more and more responsibility. And you also get to focus in. So by third year, you're picking electives and choosing, okay, I really just want to focus on cinematography and sound, or script writing and directing, or whatever the combination might be. But you've got that nice base of experience behind you at that point, so you can make a really informed decision.
Yeah, for sure. And this ties into, I think it ties into the networking thing, where you mentioned, like, you know what you didn't like, but then you can see someone else that really appreciated it, then, you know, like, potential crewmate in the future kind of thing, right? So yeah, for sure. So then when you finish, and I guess for Veronica, when you finish the program, like, you know, how kind of job prepared did you feel? Like, how did all those things that Eric just talked about, in a sense, did it actually work, in a sense? Like, you know, did you feel prepared for the industry when you graduated?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I started working maybe 2 or 3 months after I graduated. And for me personally, I went more into sort of the agency digital marketing route, which is definitely film school kind of helped because I was doing a lot of video productions and editing and cinematography all by myself. So I feel like it definitely prepared for all the skills that I needed from sort of an administrative standpoint and also a technical creative standpoint. At the same time, you know, I felt like I had the skills and the network necessary if I decided I wanted to go work in the film industry. I know that I would have the background needed to, again, have that work ethic, know how kind of sets are run. And at the end of the day, like it doesn't just prepare you for work in the film industry. I think the demand that it has on you for work ethic also prepares you for whatever other role you might want outside of the film industry.
Yeah, and Elliot, maybe you could talk about like, because I think a great thing about this program, and you know, maybe not having courses over the summer, is that you really have a chance to kind of apply your skills almost immediately. So Elliot, if you like, or if not, I can talk about like are there any projects you're doing this summer that are using kind of the skills that you learned in the program?
Yeah, exactly. So at least for myself, I've been able to take what I've learned, and I was talking about even just appreciation of knowing what each role is. I've been able to do a little bit of freelance work over the summers and through even during the school year, where I'm able to apply this knowledge on smaller scale stuff, whether that's just more personal stuff or freelance for some smaller companies and stuff like that. So I actually, even this summer, I'm doing a music video, and I've been able to call upon some of my friends and cohort to be able part of the crew. So I was talking about the networking applies, where I'm like, okay, I need a producer. I have some ideas for who can be producing and stuff like that. So I've been able, at least this summer, been able to do some music videos and some freelance work where I'm able to really apply some of the stuff. So even though I'm not done the program, it's still setting me up to be able to be in the industry. And if you're really willing to learn as much as you can and apply yourself, you're going to be able to really bring this into the industry and even start looking at some opportunities before they happen.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, kind of in relation, Eric, what does the program do to get to kind of stay current and stay relevant? You know, like when I think about, I think about what the students might have felt when at the shift from film to digital, and I almost feel like there might have been two divides. Like some people might have been like, oh, why'd you like, especially when you chose to stop teaching kind of like film predominantly. I feel like there might have been two factions where it's like, oh, why are you stopping this, you know, tried and true method? And then you have other people, and so I was like, we should really start learning about this new thing. So I'm just curious from the faculty side what the thought process is on how to keep the program current and relevant.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you bring up that switch even from, you know, mostly a film-based production to a digital-based production, because that was a big decision to make. And it definitely speaks to the process we're constantly undergoing of, you know, what is evolving and changing in the industry and how do we reflect that in what we're teaching, because we want the students graduating from the program to be ready for what's happening now. And I've always found it very interesting on that level, like you're talking about that kind of divided mindset, people who are upset maybe that we're going to leave film behind a little bit, and people who are thinking, no, we need to focus on digital because that's what I'm going to be doing. And specifically with that, the studio drama project that has been mentioned a little bit earlier, that used to be shot exclusively on film. And eventually, you know, there had been a year of discussions about, should we keep this as a film-based project? And eventually just decided, you know, there are so much less film production happening. And even in Toronto, the facilities to process 16 mil film was going away. And so it just stopped making a lot of sense to keep that as a film-based project. But the last year of students who shot it on film, they actually, as part of the year-end screening, on their own, they created this little sort of love letter to film to be included in the screening, talking about how, you know, nothing's quite like film. It's this magnificent thing. And then the next year, the first group that was shooting that same project on digital exclusively, I asked them in the process leading up to the filming, like, is anyone feeling upset that they're not filming, like shooting this on film? And all of them said, are you kidding? We don't want to shoot this on film. That'd be ridiculous. Way too expensive. We wouldn't be able to get all the shots we wanted because, you know, suddenly it's like every foot of film going through the camera costs money and you're way more paranoid about doing 3 takes even of something. And they're just like, no. We would never want to have to do this on film. Like, that's a big shift in mentality from one year to the next. But I think that happens all the time where you're worried that, okay, we're going to have to change things to keep up. Are people going to be okay with that? And you realize, oh no, that's what everyone really does want. They want the thing that's the most relevant. And so even now, you know, like where we're looking at virtual production becoming a bigger element in the industry and starting to build that into the program. And so we have program advisory committees that are made up of industry professionals from a wide range of areas within the industry that we meet with and discuss the program with. And that's a really great asset to keeping us current, as well as the faculty. A lot of the faculty that we have are part-time and partial load instructors who are still working in the industry on a regular basis. And so all of their experience is brought into the program and informs what we teach and how we teach. So there's a lot that's done to try to make sure that we're always very current.
Yeah, and I just realized that I think I might have skipped the question, but it actually kind of ties into what we're talking about. So maybe it was all by design if you ignore the question number. But like, and I guess maybe Veronica can start us off. But like, with your experience, what can graduates expect when they start to enter the industry? And are there any changes that you kind of see happening? So, you know, like for example, what was your experience like? Maybe like did you find it difficult to get your first job, like to get on a crew in initially when you just left? Or
I think my experience is a bit different. I was definitely going into a more like marketing, brand advertising route, and I find, you know, like that kind of process is a little bit easier. You go and you apply just like kind of any other job. But I do and am currently looking at picking up some freelance work and kind of going back into the film industry realm versus the advertising realm. And I think it's definitely important to keep an open mind, to continue learning, because again, you're going to learn a lot of stuff in school, but you're also just going to learn a lot of stuff in the real world of how things are changing, and being part of an even bigger crew depending on where you're working, and also keeping an eye out for, you know, short films that are looking for crew, or independent films that are still, some might have quite large budgets where you are still getting paid and you're still getting credits. So it's just kind of staying open, staying connected to the people that you're working with, staying connected to your professors, and just always looking for the resources that you can find, and continuing to learn as well, because there's so many places where you can find like webinars on how to become a line producer or a unit production manager. Like, it doesn't ever really stop. And also from what I've learned from talking to other people is that, you know, someone will start off as I don't know, an office PA or a script supervisor, and then all of a sudden they're taking a stab at production managing, or maybe now they want to try accounting. And so it's kind of, it's almost like you're in film school again, where you're trying all these different roles, and you continue to grow, build your network, until one day in the future you're specializing as something specific, and people are constantly hiring you for the same thing. But again, it's back to that open mind of continuing to learn, taking the skills that you have, and still seeing what you like to do out there in the real world.
Yeah, and so I think one thing, and I've been thinking about this because I'm coming to my third year, almost graduating, and I think some other people might be wondering this too. But what are the and I guess like what are kind of your tips to kind of land those jobs, and maybe Eric could chime in too, because and one thing I've learned with going to talks like film industry talks and stuff like that is that there's no kind of set answer to this. So I guess if you had any kind of what your experience is to that, because for example, one of my tips would be is you probably definitely want to join Facebook, because a lot of that's a lot of people in the industry still use that, and there are groups that regularly post jobs saying like, hey, we're looking for this, and it's literally open to anyone to kind of submit their stuff to or apply to, so to speak. So Facebook is one avenue to definitely kind of to go up immediately when you leave. Whether were there any other methods to kind of land that first job, for Veronica or Eric?
I'll let Eric take it. Yeah, I feel like
Sure.
I'll let Eric take it.
Well, it's an interesting industry in that it's an industry that needs a lot of different skill sets and people that just have a lot of different approaches to things. So I wouldn't say there's any one absolute way to get yourself onto a set or to get yourself into some sort of job in production in one way or another, because it depends a lot on which way you want to go. Some people begin their careers right out of school working in rental houses. And that can be a great way to start to get to know industry professionals, because they're coming in renting gear all the time and you're becoming more familiar with the gear yourself. And so if you're thinking that you've got your eye on maybe working in a camera department or in the lighting department, grip department, that's a great place to start. And, sometimes people are more focused on post-production. And so getting a job in a post-production house, being assistant trainee editor and just kind of working your way up that way. But in general, the advice I could give someone is make the most of your internship. So this program, in the final semester, there is an internship component, a work study component. And so you will be going out and getting work in the industry as part of the curriculum of the program. And not all of those jobs are going to turn into paying jobs when you graduate, but they are going to introduce you to people who are in the industry. And that gives you more connections to work with. And so making the most of those opportunities, really making a good impression, but trying to put yourself out there as much as you can. Don't be afraid in those downtimes to have those conversations with the people you're working with when it's appropriate, and letting them get to know you a little bit on that personal level, because you never know, it might be 6 months down the road or even a year down the road, and you'll be contacted. They remember you, something just came up and they thought of you. And so really trying to make the most of every opportunity you get. That's probably the best approach you can take. And that does often, it starts with the projects you're working on as part of the curriculum, but certainly comes into play in a big way when you're doing your internship hours.
Yeah. Elliot, and anything you want to kind of tie in? Or
that was everyone kind of touched upon the points that at least for someone in the program, of what you're looking for towards joining those Facebook groups and seeing kind of people post about these opportunities, and starting to get yourselves on sets and starting to build your network almost. And then also through your internship, and we also in second year take a business class, which is also really helpful to start to understand business, to understand the business of film and looking at kind of the ways and the pathways you can do it. You actually, in that class, make a 10-year plan, whether that's, you know, more doing it towards what you actually want to do, or if it's doing it just to kind of see the options. You get to see kind of ways to enter the industry, and the teacher is very helpful too. If you have any questions, they can really help you, lead you towards those pathways and start to build out those things. Like even the rental house is a good way. Even at Humber, while you're in the program, you can work at the Cage, which is the rental for the program, the rental office, I guess, or rental house for the program, and you can work there. You can start to build your knowledge up with the gear, and that can, you know, help you to get into like a rental house possibly, and stuff like that. So just there's lots of ways to do it, and it's just about kind of like exploring those options.
Awesome. So then I guess we'll kind of try and wrap things up here. So Eric, if anyone watching wants to learn more about the Film Television program, where can they learn more?
Well, certainly if anyone has any specific questions about the program, please feel free to email me. And my email is eric.cator@humber.ca. So it's on the screen there. And I'm happy to respond to any questions anyone has. And then, of course, you can always just Google Humber FMTV, and that'll take you to our program page, and that'll give you some information about like specific courses that you'll be taking each semester. But yeah, don't be afraid to reach out through email, and I can answer any questions you have.
Awesome. And Elliot, Veronica, if maybe people want to reach out and learn more about your experience, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I have my website that you can go on and kind of see some stuff that I've done in agency work. I think my Instagram is linked on there as well as my email. If you have any questions on anything, on what my experience was like and what to expect, or if you're in the program now and you want to know some insight, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to chat.
And same for me as well. You can search up on my Instagram, which is STCKLE. And on there, I post, you know, some BTS of some of the projects I'm working on, as well as some of the work there. And if you have any questions too, as well, you know, let me know too. We can talk personally about the program. So that's open as well.
Okay, great. So yeah, I would love to take some viewer questions, but I think we answered one that was submitted in the chat. What jobs can you get? I think we addressed that. So, but yeah, so I think we'll wrap it off at the next hour mark. So, thanks again to my wonderful guests for sharing their experiences, and thanks everyone for joining us today. It's always appreciated. If you're watching the recording later on and you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if there's a program that you would like to kind of see the same treatment apply to, you know, us asking students about their experiences in those programs, feel free to let us know as well in the comments. But yeah, without further ado, have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.